Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween!
Or also, could say,
Oh, ihr Sauen schöne dit.
yes,
That's it.
that's it in Irish.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone. Today we are going to bring you a very special Halloween episode of Mysteries with Mr. Ray. Hooray!
Hooray!
And this is Mr. Ray. He's my husband.
Hello.
We have a whole playlist of these videos. If you'd like to check them out, I'll put them in the eye just above. But before we get into this episode, we want to talk about why this is a voiceover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, uh, we are telling a story that takes place in Limerick, which is about 2 hours away from us in one direction.
Yes.
And last week we took a road trip to find this beautiful place.
And it was actually a super nice day as well.
Beautiful day, as you can see. But the place that we wanted to go was on private property, and we weren't about to.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere I read about this place, they said that it was worth a trip and it was interesting.
Yeah.
But when we actually got there was signs on the wall saying this is a working farm, do not enter, like you'll be a danger to yourself and the animals, and
Yeah.
um
Womp womp.
very disappointing.
But we did find this place right here. We are about to walk through it. It's a graveyard, and we thought it would be spooky enough. We also recorded our voices at this stage as well, but the microphones we're using right now for better quality
Yes.
are just not outdoor microphones.
No, they are not.
They failed.
They did.
We didn't realize they'd fail. So
Yes.
anyhow, we are here to bring you the story of
The story of the Abbey of the Black Hag.
the Abbey of the Black Hag.
Okay, so the story of the Abbey of the Black Hag. So the Abbey of the Black Hag is a Augustine, um I guess you would call it like a convent.
Yes,
So it's where a lot of it's where nuns would have been based,
yes,
and it's
living their best life.
living their best life. Yeah, and it's first recorded in 1298, and it's on the land of a guy called John Fitzthomas,
Okay,
and he's got a demance, I guess you'd call it, called Canelo.
a demence is that little area in the land?
Yeah, it's like the land that you hold,
Oh,
you know.
holdings. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and they call it the demance.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the place where this graveyard is in a town called Demance.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's weird.
So, well, like this area here is the old kingdom of Desmond, and it would have been kind of in ascension at this period,
mm.
the kind of late medieval period.
By the way, the oldest graves here are in the 1820s, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they
Oh,
were.
there
Yeah,
there are more. You can see on the left. There's like a massive bush looking thing. That's actually like what do you call that?
you.
A what? No, there's a there's a building in there.
Oh,
There,
like an old church kind of thing.
I don't know if it's a church or if it's one of those places where you bury a lot of bodies at
Oh,
once.
like a kind of crypt.
Yeah.
It could
I didn't get a date from there, but
it could be. There was definitely above ground crypts in there anyway.
hmm.
Um, but so this area at that period, like it would have been lots of different kind of what would you call them, like warlords and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All of the best examples of kind of late medieval castles come from this area,
Hmm.
and they're all based around like these kind of it would all be these demances, and people would have been intermarrying. Um, a lot of Fitzes, which would kind of indicate that they're Anglo-Norman families,
Mm.
you know. So you would have had like this guy here, Fitzthomas.
Hmm.
The Fitzgeralds and the Fitzmaurices
Hmm.
were probably the most powerful group,
Mm.
and then there was another group called the Butlers, and the Butlers were more directly. They had been granted lands,
Right.
by the English crown at this point, like
Yeah.
within this area of Munster.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, the castle in this area, this is just outside of Newcastle West,
Hmm.
and the castle there would have been is probably like one of the finest examples of a kind of late medieval castle that we would have in Ireland, you know.
Right.
So anyway, that's the crack. Um, so the monastery is definitely there in 1298
Hmm.
because it's recorded on this guy's land, but they presume that it goes back earlier.
Okay.
Um, and that's kind of it. And if you picture 4 or 5 powerful families,
Game of Thrones.
yeah, it's a Game of Thrones. I didn't want to make that reference, but yeah, it really is a Game of Thrones type thing. Like,
Yeah.
and they're all fighting each other, but they're all intermarrying as well.
Right.
You know,
For power.
yeah, and like when you start to look into it as well, like there's all of these families, like this guy here is John Fitzthomas. Is a typical like Desmond name might be um, Morris Thomas Fitzthomas Fitzmaurice. Like honestly, and then there'll be his son Thomas Morris Fitzthomas Fitzmaurice. You know,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't be that unusual. So the story of the Abbey of the Black Hag kind of starts in one of these periods where the families are fighting,
Hmm.
and it's going to be a fight between the kind of ruling Fitzmaurice family and the Butler family.
Okay.
Um, and the Fitzmaurices and the Butlers are having fracas about who owns what land and who's going to be in charge of whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And it's what would you call it? Like it's not a outright warfare
It's a
where,
feud.
yeah, it's a feud,
A
yeah,
family feud.
yeah. And I think like that in this period, like I said, there's like 4 or 5 powerful families, and they're all married to each other, and they're all fighting each other, and there'll be little outbreaks of violence along borders and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But in this particular period, anyway, the Fitzmaurices and the Butlers are having a fight.
Yeah.
They're having a bit of an argument, and the Fitzmaurice, who would have been the kind of powerful guy at that time, he's coming home with his family and a retinue of troops, and they get ambushed
Hmm.
by the Butlers.
On the
Um,
road.
they're on the road, yeah, exactly, and they're coming down and they get ambushed, and there's arrows flying everywhere, and it's the fog of war, and everything is kind of crazy,
Yeah.
um, and they escape. They just basically ride off because,
Run for it. Yeah.
yeah, because they've been ambushed, and as they're going down the road, they notice that the Lady Butler has a wound in her
Is it the
side.
Lady Desmond?
The Lady Desmond. Sorry, you're quite right. You're quite right.
Sorry.
Desmond is actually the name of the
The place.
the area. Yeah, it literally means South Munster.
Huh.
Desmond. You know.
Desmond.
Yeah, and so where are we? Yeah, so she's coming down, and they notice under her cloak that she's got this wound in her side. You know,
Yeah.
and they're very close to
Hi, Luna.
where this abbey is, the Abbey of the Black Hag. At
Yes.
the time, it wasn't called the Abbey of the Black Hag.
Of course not.
It was just the
The
the Augustine
Augustine
Abbey, like.
Abbey.
So they go down to the Abbey of the Black Hag because they're religious orders, and they're nuns. They would have a lot of knowledge. They would have probably like a dedicated physics
They were like
garden.
nurses as well, in
And
a
at
way.
at the time, like monasteries and things like that, they would have had these things called physics gardens, and there would have
Mm.
been 1 or 2 people within there that would have kind of studied healing and natural sciences and stuff, and they would literally keep a garden specifically with all of these different herbal plants in it.
Right. Right.
Um, it's actually pretty interesting. I looked
Kind of
into
witchy.
it. Is I looked into it a few years ago, and it's really interesting, like. um but anyway, they brought her down there, and the nuns kind of take care of her, and they put like herbal compresses on the wound, and they try and seal it up and stuff, but alas, she passes away.
Mm.
And the Earl of Desmond says, okay, well, this is all very sad, but we
But
need but we need to bury her quickly and get out of here and get back to the castle,
yeah, they're
where
gonna
they're
steal our
they're
castle.
they're
Like,
gonna come and attack us again or whatever.
yeah.
So they have a funeral for the Lady Desmond, and then they put her in one of those one of these above ground tombs.
Yeah, I think we passed a few of them in the
Yeah,
cemetery
there
with the big blocks, right?
there would be a few of them in there, yeah, where they like roll aside a stone and they put the body in and then roll the stone back.
Yeah.
So they've got they put her in the tomb and they ride back to the castle
Mm.
and everything is safe and it all goes on, you know?
Yeah.
Um then into this kind of area, into this the lady of the
Luna.
Luna.
Luna wants to tell her story
Yeah,
too.
the lady that's in charge of the monastery. What would you call that? Like the head nun? The
There's a word.
Is it the abbess or something like that?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, she anyway passes away, and she's replaced by a new one,
She called Mother
a new
Superior?
mother superior, maybe
Something like
something
that?
like that. But anyway, she gets replaced by a new mother superior,
Okay.
and she kind of comes in. She's got letters from Rome.
Letters.
Yeah, like
Sorry, I thought you said leathers.
yeah, she's got leathers from Rome.
It's like, dang.
She comes in.
She,
You
guess
can
she's a new breed.
Yeah, you can hear her spurs on the way down the hall as she's heading. All the nuns are gathered around the table. She busts in. She's like, "There's a new mother superior in town." So she takes over, but she has her own way of doing things.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess that's it. Some of the nuns are unhappy at this time as well. This would have been the kind of early
There's
15th.
one of them stones.
This would have been the early 15th century.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was a series of things called the Desmond rebellions. And the Desmond rebellions are a series of uh, fracas, I guess, that take place between the kind of over a 50 or 60 year period,
Hmm.
running up to like 1591, I believe.
They're having a fracas.
Yeah, but what they are is that the crown in England is trying to formalize control of the area.
Yes.
So they have agents that are over here.
Hmm.
One of the major ones at that time, although this is beyond the period that we're talking about, one of the major ones is the Butler family. The Butler family are actually um, cousins of Elizabeth, the Queen at that time in England.
Oh.
So they're involved in this as well,
Mm.
you know. And the Butler family also, as far as I know, they definitely don't try and pin me down on the history here.
Mhm.
The Butler family, as far as I know as well, are in fact married into the Fitzmaurice Fitzgerald family.
Mm.
So that's the kind of stuff that's been going on for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a series of these rebellions, and when there's rebellions and wars like that, you get knock-on problems with particularly with agriculture and stuff like that. Um, d- at at the time, a lot of animals and stuff like that are getting very very sick, um, and most of like when you go look at I went down an awful rabbit hole here with witchcraft and the nature of witchcraft and stuff like that. But when you actually look into it, what causes the most calls for witchcraft, like the ones you've heard about are, oh, Penny Goodwife, I saw her appear as a dark shadow and stuff like that. But the vast, vast majority of people that are accused of witchcraft, um, it's because animals are sick, and
Yes.
like animals are wealth. It's literally the entire economy. Like if you go through a period where none of your cows are conceiving or they're not bringing calves to term, then you're in serious economic problems. Like
Hmm.
you also are running out of food.
Yeah.
So at the time, these kind of pestilences of animals are sweeping through the land. People start to accuse this new abbess
Mm.
of being responsible for them.
Yes.
She's up to something.
Because she's good with the leaves.
Yeah, exactly. So the Earl of Desmond sends some guys round to the monastery to check it out. They don't find anything unusual, you know,
Hmm.
but he keeps getting people petitioning him. Like, my cows have got sick. I'm certain it's this lady, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Or he'll have former nuns that have been thrown out of the order coming to him as well and saying she's up to something dodgy, etc. You know?
Yeah.
So he writes to the Pope, and the Pope writes back to him saying, "Nah, nah, man, she cool."
The Pope.
Yeah, he writes to the Pope. And the Pope writes back saying, "Nah, nah, she cool." You know? Um, and this goes on again. It keeps persistently, people are coming up. So again, he sends another group of men down to check. Everything's fine,
Right.
you know? He comes back, he gets the letter back from the Pope saying she's cool. He's searched twice. He's feeling a little bit embarrassed and bad about this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he goes, he's like, this is terrible. I feel awful. This poor woman, she just wanted to be, a religious person and live in this monastery. And I feel so bad that I've been harassing her. I'm going to go and apologize personally. So he gets up on the horse and he cuts some roses from the garden and he rides down to the monastery and he knocks on the door
Mm.
and there's no reply. And he goes around the side and he starts looking in the windows. And then eventually he gets this little cell that's off the side of it, and it's actually the abbess's cell. And he looks in the window, and there she is in there, and she's got like all chicken entrails on the table,
Ooh.
and she's got like all sorts of witchcraft accoutrement, and she is witching it up.
Yeah.
She's
She's
witching.
definitely not making chicken
Oh,
tendies.
she is witching hard. She's in there doing all sort of hexing, you know. And then that's when he's like, "Oh no, I can't do this," do you know?
Right.
And he writes to the Pope again, and then the Pope writes him back a letter saying, "I had no idea if she's involved in this kind of thing. If I were you, I would just
Let's
get
get
rid of
rid
the
of her.
monastery." Yeah. So with a letter from the Pope saying that she's thing, he goes down there. Much magical fighting ensues. He basically imprisons the abbess and tears down the castle, or tears down
The
the
monastery
monastery.
around her, like.
Yeah, tears down the monastery around her. And when they're tearing it down, they open up the tomb that his wife was in,
Yeah.
and there's all scratch marks on the back of the thing, like she wasn't dead at all when they buried her in
Oh
there, like,
my god.
ah! And to this day, then you're supposed to hear, if you go there and in the graveyard, you're supposed to be able to hear the cries of the Lady Desmond screaming for help, like. And then at night, strange lights come from the cell that's off the side of the monastery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is the story of the Abbey of the Black Hag.
Let's show them. Let's show them what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Have
So
a
we're
look
gonna
at the.
have a look at this. So this is where we found the Abbey. It's hard to see it. I'm going to zoom in. Yeah, there it is right there
That's the Abbey, and you can see the house. That's literally the house of the.
on the right.
Yeah, that's where the farmer's house is.
Yeah.
So when we arrived there, and there was a sign on the wall saying "Don't enter this property,"
Danger.
etc. Danger. This is a working farm. There are animals here. You can. Um, you were so mad that you had to get out of the car,
Yeah, I had
walk
to
around fuming.
walk around fuming for a minute because we couldn't get to it. But I'm kind of glad we didn't, because if you see all those flies, it's because there's cows in that
Oh
field.
yeah, you can't actually smell the manure. There's an awful lot of they must have spread manure on the
Yeah,
field or
if
something.
there was smell-o-vision, we're doing you a favor.
Yeah, and then you said to me like, "Oh well, what are we going to do? You need to go and ask them." But to ask them, I had two options. I'd either have to walk into the field where the guy was rolling around on his tractor doing stuff, or walk past the signs telling me not to walk past the signs to the
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Like,
In fairness, we just thought that it was a little too dangerous in the end to
I didn't.
ask
I just didn't have the nerve.
permission. But we did. We were driving for 4 hours that day, so
It's true,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we did do it. We did. I promise we were there.
We honestly were, yeah.
But yes, it was a beautiful day though.
It was a really nice day, yeah.
And today is Samhain. So when we're recording this voiceover, and it is absolutely ghoulish outside.
It is terrible. Yeah.
Well, it's getting a little bit better, but raining and everything. So I hope that your Halloween goes very well. Also, I know this is a sad note, but our hearts go out to those who passed away in Itaewon
Yeah.
over the weekend. So sorry if anyone here. Hopefully, no one that we know was affected. But yeah, yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us today and enjoying this little episode of our. Well, it's not Theory Tuesday today, is it? It's
No, it's
Monday. It's I don't know, Maniacal Monday.
maniacal Monday. Yeah.
um, have a wonderful and safe day, everyone. We are headed off on our Holliers.
Hooray!
Yay! So there are videos that are coming up this week. We hope that you enjoy a lot of reading Grimm's fairy tales this week from me.
Nice.
And I hope that you enjoy them. And I will see you all again soon for a real live video when we come back next week. So take care of yourselves, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye!